what are the details that make or break the success of web teams? How much depends on your process? How much depends on the people making up the team and their relationships? How much depends on your platform, your tools? Hello, Steve Persh from Pantheon here, and we think the success of website operations depends on those three broad areas: people, process, and platforms, complementing each other well. No amount of process tuning, your sprint lengths, your Git branching etiquette will make a substantial difference if the people aren't aligned on a big picture. And practically no amount of team gumption can overcome a totally broken platform. Today, we're going to see a team that has balanced well their people, their process, and their platform tools. And in a context you might not expect, we're going to see the web presence of a local government, Raleigh, North Carolina, incrementally improving, propelled in part by the agile methodologies brought by a web agency, Aten Design. We'll see what it looks like for Pete Weber from the city of Raleigh to review functionality tweaks made by Aten, get those reviewed in a Pantheon Multidev environment before they're merged and deployed out to the live site. And then we'll go back and talk through how did Pete and his counterparts at Aten discuss and prioritize the website's needs? In what ways are they constrained and empowered by the web systems that they've built up in Drupal with Aten's Mercury Editor? And how does their work get translated and tracked in Jira through Scrum-like methodologies? As someone who spent most of his career in these kinds of systems and is now in a job where I feel like I'm more of a spectator on the ongoing world of website operations, I am unreasonably excited to see some of these screen shares and get into these details. So let's welcome here Pete Weber from the city of Raleigh, communications and web administrator. We have John Ferris, senior developer from Aten, and Aundrea Billings, senior project manager at Aten. Thanks so much, the three of you, for joining.
Good to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Pete, let's start with a little bit more from you. Could you tell me a bit about your role with the city of Raleigh and how you came to be working on this website?
Yes, so I started with the city about 10 years ago, and 5 years ago we decided we needed to do a major redesign of our site and a migration from our old system to Drupal, and so we sought out the help of Aten. We actually chose Aten as our vendor because they spoke about designing for people, and they were the only vendor that spoke about people, so that's why we chose them. In my role, I work with many content editors, close to 100 throughout the city organization. We have 26 departments that all act like mini businesses. So my job is to take their request and figure out what we can do for them in the way of developing the site and enhancing it, figure out what we can do that's an enterprise solution that everyone can take advantage of, work with my internal core team, which is IT and communications. And then if we think it's a viable feature, we will reach out to Aten and get the ball rolling on enhancing the website and developing out whatever the request is.
That sounds great. And Aundrea, to turn things over to you, I think often that discussion flows through you and your project management role. Can you speak to your career experience and how it's brought you into this project?
Yeah, so I have been in project management, specifically working on open source web projects, so mostly WordPress and Drupal for about a decade. When I came to Aten about 2 years ago, I was super excited to work with mission-driven organizations, excited to work with local government. When I found out that the city of Raleigh was going to be one of my clients, I was just super pumped. As a team, the city of Raleigh is really focused on giving the best user experience to the citizens and other stakeholders in their city. And they're really curious about doing it in innovative and new ways. And I don't know that you always see that with a lot of local governments. So it's been really exciting to collaborate with them.
Yeah, and that collaboration has been going on for years, as you mentioned. John, I think you as well have been in this project for 5 years, is it?
Yeah, since the beginning. Yeah, it's been good. I've been with Aten for going on 12 years now. So it feels like almost half the time. Been working
Yeah.
on the Raleigh site.
We've touched here on some of the details that I think are really intriguing about this project. In my previous work as an agency developer, I was often working in the model of one large relaunch project at a time. And part of what we're hearing here is that this is a relationship and a process that's been evolving for 5 years. And the mode in which teams work together can be very different if you're in that relaunch mindset versus an iterative improvement mindset. So I'd like to just right away get to what I think is kind of the essence of that iterative improvement way of working, rather than having that high pressure moment of like we're relaunching the whole website and that is everything. We're cutting over DNS. It's super high pressure. We have a way of working that is, I think, substantially uh, lower pressure, but still still important. So what I'm bringing on to the screen here, Pete's screen share. So knowing you're working on this iterative basis, we have the live version of the website, which is constantly improving, and we have uh, in another tab here, I think, a version of the website that is not yet live that contains an improvement. Pete, could you talk about um, the difference between these sites that you as one of the owners of the site or stewards of the site, need to evaluate, is this new functionality change ready to go live?
Yes. So as you can imagine, the site is always evolving, and with 26 departments always having a need, there's always something that we're trying to enhance or improve upon. And as you can see here on our website, we have an events feed, and this events feed is pretty much all of the events that we have across the city. They're city-owned events put on by the city. They could be council meetings, workshops, charrettes, reach out. And so we are now tasked with the idea that folks want calendars that are thematic. So if you think about our housing and neighborhoods department, we have economic development, and they work with all of the small businesses in the community. And so they want to have a calendar that's geared towards all of the things that are in the community, put out by other partners that can help small business in the community. And so we saw that there was a need for this, topic calendar is what we call it, and that these events would not sit nicely in the events feed that's citywide, city-owned events. So basically, what we did was we came out with the concept of a topic calendar, and I put in a ticket with Aten through our Jira system, and I believe that is ticket 1300. It's a number that sticks with me because it's been around for a while. And basically, I went in and created a ticket with an overview and an acceptance criteria, and how we were going to test for QA. Included some attachments, some screenshots, and video. I found that video, though it takes a little more time to produce, having a live example where I'm showing exactly where I am on the site and what my needs are seem to get us a lot further down the road than me trying to explain it and through words. The visuals help, whether it's an image or a video. But anyway, this ticket has taken on a life of its own. There's been a lot of conversation. There are sub-tickets that hang off of it, and many iterations of the topic calendar. So this was the very first one that we built that I just mentioned, the small business event calendar. And it serves its purpose. It serves it well. And then small business economic development folks came to us and said, hey, we want to be able to kind of sort through this by different topics, different types. So we used taxonomy and built an event type drop down where folks can choose different opportunities that in the small business community that reflect what it is they're looking for. So in this case, I chose like networking events. But then we saw that there was a new need, and that was for topic calendars to exist elsewhere on the site. And so I'll just show one here, community van. I think that'll pull it up pretty quickly. Let's see. So we've got our community van, and here is our next topic calendar. And as you can see, the taxonomy carried over from the topic calendar that we created for the small business. So we went back to the drawing board. We added some requirements to the ticket, and I worked with John Ferris, as I call him Ferris. Worked with Ferris to figure out like how we could separate it out such that each topic calendar could have its own taxonomy so that the drop down was specific to that topic calendar. So that's where we're at now, is finding a solution for having multiple topic calendars throughout the website, and each of those topic calendars will have its independent taxonomy so that people can filter down within that specific calendar. So
yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that you figure out after a site is live, after you're using it for a bit. You see, okay, the conceptualization we had at launch isn't quite what we need going forward. So if you have it available, could you show the newer version that's in a multi-dev?
Okay, so this is the new calendar, and we still have our taxonomy for the small business calendar. And then let's see. You want me to show the back end?
Yeah, could you show either the back end or just the distinction that you're seeing here that helps you confirm that it's good to go? And I think with the cadence you're on, if you approve this, by the time people watch this recording, this change will probably be on the Real Deal Live site.
It should go live tonight at 6. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, I just sent you a link to the community engagement van on that site.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So now we are in our multi-dev, and I am able to see that the small business calendar, that's not the small business calendar. Here's the small business calendar. Okay, so the small business calendar still operates as I would expect. We've still got our drop down for the event types that are specific to this calendar. And when I go and look at the community engagement page, we have our topic calendar, and you'll notice that the drop down is not appearing, so that people will not get the taxonomy terms that we expect on the small business calendar, but would not expect on the engagement band calendar. So it works as expected.
Hooray!
Hooray! Yay!
Yes. All right.
Ship it.
Ticket 1300 is pushing through.
Thank you, Ferris.
All right. Well, that's
too early for champagne here.
too early in the day for champagne. But these are the kinds of wins that build up over time. That reference to champagne reminds me of a story I heard about a customer of ours who moved something like 800 sites to Pantheon over the course of a summer, and that was a champagne-worthy moment. But I wouldn't want to work that way for my whole career with fraud periods of like, we got to get 800 sites moved and it's got to work. And if it does, okay, we'll celebrate with champagne in the middle of a workday. But if it doesn't, who knows what? So this model, I think, is lower stress. So John here, I realized as you were presenting, or as you were showing us there, John, that my choice here for you of a light blue could be frost, knowing that you're in North Carolina. Depending on your collegiate and athletic preferences, a Tar Heel shade of blue may or may not be good for you.
It's actually perfect. I went to UNC. I am a Tar Heel.
Perfect. So website operations can get incredibly complicated, but if we can distill portions of it down to in your busy day, if Ferris can send you a link where like you of course have the live environment, you're signed into that all the time, but if he can send you that link either in Jira or send it to you in chat, and you can just look at the new feature, compare these two environments in your browser, and say like, yeah, this is better. Thumbs up. You can bring that back over to you. Bring that feedback in Jira or what have you. That interaction is to me much simpler and much more manageable on a day by day basis than the more complicated versions of website operations that we sometimes see. John or Pete, am I correct in assuming that this style of working like just fits into your life better? Where like the city of Raleigh is hundreds of years old. Uh, there are things that need to last for a long time, and structuring work in little improvements is more manageable than gigantic projects that have fraught go live moments.
Yes, I would say this is my favorite part of my workload because there's a process here and there are people involved that know the process and we're able to follow it. And together, we basically do the work in digestible pieces. And, at the end, you've got this massive website that's doing everything it needs to do for the public. And, using Jira to communicate with Aten and get their feedback and engage with them is really, really helpful in managing such a large site, especially when you have so many stakeholders coming at you on a day-to-day basis with not only their suggestions for how to improve the site, but the communities, city councils, upper managements, and all the things, all the other things in a busy day-to-day. So this is my favorite part of my job. Is grooming the Jira board and making notes and testing and doing videos to show what it is I think I need to see happen.
Yeah, so I guess to talk a little bit more about this feature from a technical perspective. So the events themselves are, it's just an event content type. They have various taxonomy terms. They can be tagged for different locations, different types of events, and most of those live on this kind of general events page. And for the embedded events, we have a number of content types on the Raleigh site are using paragraphs, layout paragraphs, and Mercury Editor on top of that. And if you're not familiar with Mercury Editor, it's essentially a authoring experience improvement geared. It was like we developed it specifically with layout paragraphs in mind. So if you're familiar with layout paragraphs or paragraphs in general, they can be cumbersome to edit in the standard node edit form. So layout paragraphs took that a step further and brings like layouts into like the concept of Drupal's layouts into paragraphs and give you more of a drag and drop interface on top of that. And then Mercury Editor builds on top of that and creates this preview, like a live preview of what you're editing on the site and brings the node form off into the sidebar. And so we recently, I guess maybe it's been 6 months now, we rolled this out initially for the couple content types on Raleigh that were using paragraphs and layout paragraphs. And I think Pete and his team liked the interface so much that we actually rolled this out on every content type regardless of there being layout paragraphs.
I may need
So
to
all
try
that,
this on Pantheon's own site. I was recently configuring regular paragraphs module and finding myself thinking, this could be better.
yeah, it's, I mean, I think it's such a big improvement to the paragraph authoring experience. I really enjoy it, and just constantly working on it and finding new use cases. But what we're doing on the Raleigh site is, so we have the concept of embedded events. So on any content type, or most content types, they have the ability to, click the plus button and add, in this case, events embed is just the name of this component or paragraph. So what we've had for a few months now, with this embedded events list and calendar, is the ability for the content author to specify, what events should show up on here. We don't want the full list of events. We want the events that are applicable to this particular page. So we've had three main methods of doing that. They can, filter by one or more tags. So in this case, we're showing all our small business events. Event type. So this is just another set of another list of taxonomy terms can be applied. Places. So if these events, if there's a park or music venue, whatever that idea of location is, we can show events that are tagged specifically for that place. But what we've just added is this fourth level, which is what filters should be available to the end user, so that they can further filter those events. So in this case, we have the 5 default topic event types, which these were defined in the ticket as an example. And some of the back and forth, and the reason why we had to iterate on this ticket was sort of miscommunication, I guess, or misunderstanding about like Pete was saying, do these these particular filters don't apply to all embedded event calendars. So Pete and I had discussed, what are the possible solutions here, and what we've come up with is making this fourth level of terms selectable by the author, so they can say, I don't, let's not show networking events as a filter. I save that. And now networking events is removed from this exposed filter. If they choose nothing, click save, and then just no filters will show up at all. Any questions on that so far? Or?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. One detail I wanted to ask about, that one of the plus signs that was showing up in between, like in addition to thinking through these details of or complex details of user interaction that we were just seeing in the calendar form, Pete, I think I heard you say on a previous conversation we had that just that plus button, the ability to add stuff in between, was a huge improvement for you. Is that right?
Absolutely. We will get we'll get a page of content from a subject matter expert that'll have like 7 or 8 paragraphs, and they'll come back 5 minutes after you go live with the page and say, hey, I forgot about this video that needs to go after the first paragraph. And now with the plus signs at the top and bottom of each of the components, you can just easily add that above or below a piece of content within the page. And it sounds so small, but it is such a time saver, and just it just helps you like know right where you are in the page and be able to, you know, affect change right in the place you want to make the change. Like you don't have to do the guesswork of moving your components up and down, you know, using row weights or anything like that, or drag and drop, which sometimes doesn't work very well depending on, you know, your fingers and how they move across your keyboard.
And Aundrea, I want to get you in the conversation a bit more here. So we've talked a fair bit about the details of executing this one particular bit of functionality. I'm curious how does this piece of functionality, which sounds like got discussed a fair bit, how does this piece of functionality go from, you know, floating down in the backlog, arbitrary labels here, priority is 1, 2, 3, 4. I suppose we had ticket 1300. How did this thing go from its ticket number 1300 to like you're working in what, you know, a 1 month chunks? How does 1300 float up to the top of the priority list such that, okay, this is now part of what is getting delivered this month?
Yeah, so we do a weekly working meeting with the Raleigh team, and that is where we have that kind of face-to-face to determine that priorities are set correctly based on what the city's priorities are. But typically, I try to do a really good job with the Raleigh team of making sure that we're all in alignment about what Aten's capacity is for a given month. So the Raleigh team actually does a lot of work on their end before I even see a ticket around prioritization. So Pete and the rest of the web team does such an amazing job of like looking at all of the different priorities and requests that are flying at them from other city departments and saying like, this is the one that we need to prioritize. This is the one that's like, we can wait a couple months on that. And so actually what's really nice for me as an agency, or for me as a project manager, is that like Pete and his team have already done a little bit of that work for us in terms of setting priorities. I do appreciate Pete's earlier comment about process, because we do have a structure to how we work together, but it's flexible. So we operate in 1 month sprints. We have a specific pencils down date, which is Aten, your work's got to be done into QA, so the Raleigh team has time to look at it and to iterate if something comes out of that QA process. And then we have a really specific deploy date that's all managed by the city's in-house developer, Nicole. And so we have all of these guardrails, and we've all sort of agreed to stay within these guardrails. And that's really important, because there are times where you're like, I want to just throw this new thing at Aten because someone is, you know, sounding the alarm about it. But we've agreed to work within these guardrails, and it's worked really well because it's allowed us to say like, okay, this is the month for 1300. We might have kicked the can down the road on this for a couple of months, but this is the month. And so, yeah, it really is a collaboration. And I think one thing that helps us work really well together is that Pete and his team really understand how important it is that they have a solid understanding of the problem they're trying to solve. And that helps us to be able to recommend really good solutions. And they have the access to the stakeholders. They have the access to the people that are using their site. And so we really rely on them to make sure that the voices of their users are heard. And so, yeah, it's really like, it's a really beautiful collaboration, honestly.
I'm curious, Pete, how you do that. I imagine Aten may have other clients that they will not want to name who do not have a Pete. Pete, what specifically do you do to take the input of those 26 city departments, those nearly 100 content editors of varying levels of comfort and familiarity with web systems? What might other aspiring Petes do to be more effective in a role like yours?
It's a balancing game. I mean, I try to take everyone's request, in and weigh whether or not it's going to, enhance the site in such a way that everyone can take advantage of the enhancement. All the departments can benefit from it, that it'll benefit the end users, that it really does make the experience on the website a better experience for all involved, whether it's any one of our audiences, the city council, the public, the subject matter experts in the departments. And I just try to keep people at the focus of it all. And when it does get when it gets a little tense and I'm trying to figure things out, I'm not afraid to ask for help. I have a small core team that's comprised with City of Raleigh, COR, we core, and then core, CORE. Our core team is comprised of IT and communications folks, and we meet twice a week and talk about what it is we think we need to do to enhance the site and the overall direction of where we want the site to go. And then monthly, we have a digital governance meeting, which is that small core team, but with our upper management in both IT and communications, as well as IT business partners that represent some subset of the departments, and then communications administrators in the communications department that represent some subset of departments. And we run everything by them on a monthly basis and kind of let them know where we're going with the site and get their buy-in. And we've got a lot of checks and balances in place. I have a lot of autonomy to make decisions on how the site should operate and function and look, but I've always found value in running that by everyone, like getting their input, because they too are end users of the website. And so it just works. There's synergy there that really works for us. I lean on all the people really within the organization and at Aten. So.
Well, and I think that work that you do, Pete, and the rest of your team does to make sure you're getting input from all the right sources and all of the right people are informed, all of that work pays off when the feature eventually gets to us, because we're able to be really good stewards of your resources. You've already vetted this by everyone who it needs to be vetted by. So as long as we have a solid understanding of the requirements, we might have some suggestions for how to do things a little differently from what you were originally thinking, but that just allows us to run and use your resources really well.
So we're starting to run low on time here. I'm wondering, Pete, are there other aspects of this website that you just want to share with a wider audience that you think perhaps other local governments should add to their own sites if it's not already a common practice?
Well, we run everything through, we use optimization tools like Site Improve, Google Analytics, Cluedo metrics, and we really just try to make sure that our site is readable. It's, we have a wide audience, so we try to write at the 7th grade level. We try to make sure that we're ADA compliant, that everything is accessible on our website. And we do everything we put on the website, we vet as information that everyone can find beneficial. And as a government entity, the advice I would give other government entities is don't just take the presentation that goes to council and throw it on your website. It is our #1 communications tool. And the information needs to be written in such a way that people can absorb it and that they can digest the information and understand what it is we're talking about. The government speak needs to be removed from the content before it hits the website. And it's one of our big struggles is to repurpose the content for the website and not have it be a presentation that's put before council at the podium. And we're in the process of fixing that. And I think most government sites could benefit from looking at their content through that lens. Like, how does the end user want to consume this information? And it's certainly not the same presentation that council got in session. So that would be the best advice I could give other municipalities.
And Pete, if you haven't already had to do so, at what point are you going to have to figure out how to repurpose council presentations into TikToks?
We're not even going down that path. We've already blocked TikTok.
Oh, there you go. You don't have to worry about it.
We don't have to worry about TikTok.
There you go. We are out of time here. Thanks so much, Pete Weber from the city of Raleigh, John Ferris, Aundrea Billings from Aten Design. Thanks so much for joining me.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you on the internet.